Hello and welcome. You're watching the Tov Jewish News channel. My name is Michael Vilensky, and my guest is Eldad Beck, a journalist and a specialist in Europe and everything that's going on there. Eldad, welcome to our studio.
Thank you, Michael.
Eldad, so my first question to you will be about how Europeans really perceive the war in Israel. So we can see clear parallels between what is going in Israel between radical Islamist organizations such as Hamas and Hezbollah, and Israel's, Western position, its closeness to the Western world. Do Europeans see it also as a war of civilizations, as Samuel Huntington said? Don't they see that what is happening to Israel today might happen to Europe in the future, with Muslims that live in France and in the rest of European countries? Is that something they really understand?
Well, first of all, I would avoid talking about Europeans as a general term because I think that there are different groups among the European population as a whole and different groups among European populations in the different countries. There is no doubt that nowadays more Europeans are able to see the connection between what is happening to Israel and the situation in the Middle East to their own situation, due to the fact that, first of all, they have seen the horrors made by ISIS, and they have experienced these horrors, either because of terrorist attacks that were committed by ISIS itself on European soil. Some of them were done by Europeans, Muslim Europeans that went to Iraq and Syria and came back, or supporters of ISIS. And on the other hand, they see the level of violence that has increased in recent years. And this happened parallel to the massive immigration that came to Europe from mainly the Middle East, but also from Africa, Northern Africa, and the Sub-Saharan Africa. And they do make the connection because it's something that happens next door. It's something that happens in their neighborhood. It's something that happens in their streets, in their towns, in the universities, in the schools. They are not blind to it. However, we have here two different problems. First of all, the establishment in most countries just got used to not dealing with this problem for different reasons. You have some countries like Germany who was afraid to deal with it because it was afraid to be considered as once again falling into racist ways of treatment with immigrants. And you have other countries where the phenomenon has become so big, the phenomenon of Muslim immigration, that it's going to be extremely difficult to initiate any sort of activity without causing a civil war. And I'm mainly talking about France, Belgium, even Holland, certain countries of Scandinavia, and also in the United Kingdom. You also have among the European populations people who refuse to acknowledge reality. And those people are mainly coming from mainly the radical left, the left and the center left parties. They just refuse to admit the fact that having a very tolerant policy of immigration and bringing into their countries people who were not even thinking of integrating into their new societies, but enforcing upon these societies the ways of living that they were used to in their homelands, that this has become a real threat to civil peace in the different European countries. And you see it, and I believe that you are going to witness this thing also around the festivities of Sylvester.
So, Eldad, you mentioned the rhetoric in Europe towards migrants, and I want to ask you, So since the war in Israel began, you kind of saw people speaking more freely about the difficulties related to Islam living in Western countries, living alongside Western societies. Do you really see that all the culture of political correctness around that issue is kind of falling off, and people saying it more freely, and in the speaking from their heart and saying, that radical Islam is a problem, Muslim immigration to Europe is a problem, or does it remain at the same level, and people don't really, change the way they speak?
You definitely see that more and more people feel extremely uneasy with the situation that was created in their countries, in their states, and they are expressing it. And I think that maybe they don't express it in a violent way, the same way that the pro-Palestinian demonstrations of mainly Arab and Muslim origin are doing when they go out to the streets. But the Europeans are expressing their unhappiness with the situation when they go to the votes. Now we have seen this recently in Holland, where during the last general elections, the Dutch general elections, you had a very significant strengthening of the party of Geert Wilders, who is openly has been speaking about the problem that Europe has with this radical Islam, with Islam as a whole for years. It is not a something that fell from the skies that he actually won the elections. You will probably see it in other elections that will take place in Europe this year. I'm talking to you now from Vienna. We're going to have general elections in September. And right now, the polls are showing that the right-wing populist party, the FPÖ, the Freedom Party, is leading in the polls. For the first time, it might even win the election. And that has to do with the fact that many Austrians are extremely unhappy with the situation as where you go out on the streets, you all of a sudden hear mainly Arabic and Turkish and not German or other European languages. And people are reacting to it. How many of them are making the connection to the situation that happened in Israel? How many of them are afraid that the 7th of October will take place also at their homes? Well, there was one poll in France, which showed that the French public opinion believes in its majority that such a tragic, terrible event as the 7th of October can happen also in France. So there is a waking up process. However, I'm afraid it is not as large as I would expect it to be, due to the fact that it's a very, very significant problem. You also have to see the differences between West Europe and East Europe. In East Europe, for the time, we don't have that many immigrants of Arab and Muslim origin. This situation might change, mainly due to the fact that Poland, for example, has now a new center-left government, which would have another policy of immigration, much more pro-European, so they might let into the country more Arabs and Muslims, and that might change the balance that has been existing so far in this area of Europe. But as a whole, we still see a very clear difference between West Europe, where the situation is mainly, I would say, lost, to East and Central Europe, where the situation still represents a certain hope.
Eldad, I want to ask you about your neighbors. So you said that you're in Austria located right now, and I want to ask about Germany. So as we've mentioned, there's this new wave of the new right in Europe. We can talk about the victory of, well, not victory, but the great success the Le Pen party had in France, the party called the Rassemblement National, right? Eric Zemmour's party also in France, Giorgia Meloni's party in Italy. Geert Wilders' victory in Netherlands, right? So there's this wave of pro-Israeli, right-wing, anti-immigration, anti-Muslim immigration. But one of controversies in this whole wave is a party called AfD in Germany, Alternative for Deutschland, for Germany, right? And because some people say that this party is anti-Israel, anti-Semitic. On the other hand, others people say that this party is actually, pro-Israel, and it's also another party that understands the dangers of Muslim immigration. Can you please give us background on this party and what do they really stand for?
Well, I wrote a whole book about this party, the AfD, which was published about a year and a half ago in Israel. And I refuse to have a very simplistic view of this party, as most of the commentators have. The AfD is I would call it a supermarket of ideas. Those who try to paint it as being only a neo-Nazi party definitely do not understand anything about German or European politics. And therefore, the answer to your question, is it a pro-Israeli or anti-Israeli party, is also a very complex answer, because as many other German and European parties, you would find different streams in it. So you would definitely have uh, streams inside the AfD which have a very problematic ideological background and beliefs, mainly in East Germany, where where generations of inhabitants didn't have any confrontation with the Nazi past of Germany. They were throwing the whole responsibility of the Nazi time and the Holocaust on West Germany, and were pretending to be victims, as they were communists and socialists, victims of the Nazis. So they didn't work at all. They didn't confront their past. And therefore, you do have tendencies there of anti-Semitism and anti-Israelism, which are extremely strong. I would also stress the fact that in East Germany, the communist East Germany, anti-Semitic, anti-Zionism, or anti-Semitic, anti-Israelism was the official policy of the state. And you have generations over generations of people, I mean, over 40 years, people were brought up with the ideas that Israel is the inheritance of the Third Reich, and that they are doing to the Palestinians exactly the same things as the Nazis are doing did to the Jews. So there is this problematic. However, to pretend that all the AfD or all the voters of the AfD are thinking this way is absolutely not true, because you have inside this party liberal, conservative streams that have a very pro-Israeli stand. In the past, they brought up some initiatives to the Bundestag, which the official establishment refused to do. There is another rocket attack as we are speaking. They were actually advancing some initiatives of their own, which forced the establishment to adopt these initiatives differently. But the whole issue of the BDS, the anti-BDS initiative, the whole issue of forbidding the Hezbollah activities inside Germany, all those was actually initiated by the AfD, and only later the political establishment, which pretends to be friendly to Israel, took the initiative and forced these steps ahead.
So, Eldad, we've already done an interview with you previously on this channel, And one of the questions that was asked to you in that interview, in the past interview, was what countries in Europe are the most supportive of Israel? You, as I remember, mentioned three countries. You mentioned Hungary, Czech Republic, and Austria. And when I was going through the comments under that video, many people from Cyprus and Greece got really mad at you because you forgot to mention them and their support for Israel. And could you please talk about the relationship between Cyprus, Greece, and Israel, and kind of console those people, and what makes them so supportive of Israel?
Well, first of all, I'm happy that there are such reactions. And it's true that in recent years, relations between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel have improved tremendously, mainly due to the fact that, first of all, in Greece, we have a conservative government which is much more understanding to the situation of Israel. We have also economical interests that have to do with the reserves of gas in the Mediterranean that bring those three countries together. And we also have the fact that Turkey, which was considered in the past as an ally of Israel, has openly become a anti-Israeli country under the leadership of under the dictatorship, one should say, of Erdogan. So the fact that we have now a common enemy in Turkey brings these three countries together. However, I would have wished that both Cyprus and Greece would not only express their solidarity with Israel on the bilateral level. I would really hope that this would be expressed also, first of all, in the European level, the EU level, which means every time that there is an anti-Israeli decision initiated by our known enemies among the EU, that Greece and Cyprus would stand by the side of Israel and by the side of the three countries that I mentioned, and would vote against those initiatives, would be able to, in the EU, you need a consensus, you need a unanimous vote in order to adopt a decision. So it would not be bad if Cyprus and Greece would start stopping such initiatives, not only Hungary, Czechia, and Austria. And I would also expect exactly the same attitude in the international arena. I do not remember Cyprus and Greece voting against anti-Israeli decisions at the UN, especially at the General Assembly. When this will happen, as it happened with the three countries that I have mentioned, I would be the first one to quote Cyprus and Greece as being our best friends in Europe.
Let's hope that this part of the interview will be seen by our commentators from Greece and Cyprus. We welcomed in our studio Eldad Beck, a specialist in Europe, a journalist, and an author. Eldad, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mikhail.
Thank you to all our viewers who saw this amazing, interesting video. Please subscribe to us on all our social media platforms and have a great day.